Okay, I have to admit that Nuxt is probably one of the best web frameworks ever created.
That doesn't make sense.
Believe me, this is not an overstatement. Somehow, these guys were able to find a perfect recipe and mix together the simplicity and performance of AstroJS with the maturity and the feature set of NuxtJS. The result is a VueJS-based intuitive web framework which makes development simple and powerful. So let's spend the next few minutes reviewing the core features Nuxt is offering and build a small web app that will allow us to review some of the main workflows you are likely to run into in your day-to-day job. We'll get to writing some code in a second, but first, let's put on paper our app's architecture and review the core concepts and tools we'll use with this tech stack. So, Nuxt will be responsible for our app both on the client and on the server. The UI logic is built using VueJS via the Composition API and will make everything pretty using Tailwind CSS and Daisy UI. On the server, the Nitro engine, which uses Node.js under the hood, will handle both incoming API requests and the rendering process. By default, Nuxt relies on universal rendering. So your app's HTML is computed on the server and then sent over to the browser for an immediate first meaningful paint experience. During this time, the JavaScript code is also downloaded and executed, and the rendering process finishes with the hydration step when your app finally becomes interactive. This is pretty much the de facto rendering strategy across the industry these days, but it is worth mentioning that Nuxt also offers client-side rendering, hybrid rendering, and even the possibility to render your application on CDN edge servers. Back to the tools we are using, VueJS is one of the most popular libraries for building modern UIs. The front-end world is a rather crowded one, but Vue managed to stay on top of the usage and popularity charts for quite a while now. It popularized the idea of single-file components, where you're grouping your template, logic, and styling in a single file, and probably enjoys one of the most active and engaged dev communities out there. On the styling front, Tailwind CSS is a utility-first CSS framework leveraging the Atomic CSS architecture. It provides a wide range of predefined classes, which can be composed to rapidly build any type of UI. While Tailwind might be enough for most use cases, I usually opt in for a component library such as Daisy UI as well, in order to have quick access to commonly used components like buttons, modals, or dropdowns. And, back to the main topic of the video, Nuxt is the meta framework that holds everything together. It comes packed with all the features you would expect from a big player in the front-end space. First of all, it offers a file-based router, which makes it easy to organize your application. This is pretty much the standard when building large apps, and it will allow us to not only easily define app pages, but, as we'll see in a second, we can seamlessly define backend API routes as well. Then, it does code splitting to divide your codebase into smaller chunks and improve the initial load time, and tree-shaking optimizations to trim down any unused code from the final production bundles. On top of all these, dev experience is a major benefit when working with Nuxt. Besides the zero configuration TypeScript support, Nuxt offers auto imports so you can use your Vue components across your app without writing a single import line. Finally, Nuxt offers great server support both via various rendering strategies and through data fetching utilities. Don't worry, we'll see all these in action in a second. Okay, let's not waste any more time and start writing some code. Be sure to have a recent Node.js version installed on your machine and then run the Nuxt init command in your terminal. Once you go through the setup wizard, you'll end up with this project structure. Most of the files and folders in here are self-explanatory. We'll use the components folder to define our Vue components. Remember that the components defined here can be used anywhere in the project without an import statement. We can define layouts to use parts of the UI across multiple views. Pages will hold our file system-based router structure. On the server, we can define API endpoints. And in the nuxt.config file, we can customize our app and register various modules like Tailwind CSS. Since I mentioned modules, it is worth noting that these are a great flexible way to add powerful behavior in your app. Modules are created either by the Nuxt team or the community, and the library they are offering is pretty impressive. Okay, back to the code, let's create a default layout which will be shared through our app. All these files are Vue components, so they'll have a script section for the business logic, a template section to define the HTML structure associated with the component, and the style section we will rarely use since we are relying on Daisy UI for this task. Whenever the user accesses a page, I want to log this for analytics purposes, and in the template, I'm simply defining a shared header and footer and a slot special element which will be replaced by the actual page content. Next, let's jump into the components directory and quickly create a simple header component with a page title and a login button. Note that the script and style tags are optional. Now, moving to something a bit more interesting, let's create a start.vue file under the pages directory. This component will be rendered when users access the /start URL, and the rendered HTML will replace the slot element we defined a bit earlier in the default layout. In the template section, I am adding the email and password input fields and a button to trigger the login action. A couple of things to note here. We are using the vModal attribute to bind the DOM element to a JavaScript value, a click handler to listen for the event, and a loading class via Vue's special bind attribute. Of course, we are using some Tailwind and DaisyUI classes for styling purposes. Now, moving to the script section, I am starting by defining the reactive values we linked into the template. Then, since this component will be rendered by Nuxt as a page, we can add a custom page title via the use head hook. Finally, I'm defining the login click handler, where we are sending a post request to the API/login path with the email and password information added in the request body. The request is performed via the Nuxt use fetch hook, which provides a few benefits such as the ability to abort requests, intercept requests before they are fired, or automatically refresh requests when the URL changes. Before writing the backend handler for the API call, I want to briefly mention the setup attribute in the script tag. This is compile times syntactic sugar for using the composition API inside single file components, and it provides a number of advantages over the normal approach. The composition API was added in Vue 3 and provides a simpler, cleaner solution for building reusable components. You can find out more about all these from the video linked into the top right corner. Okay, so, as I've mentioned multiple times, with Nuxt we can build full-stack apps. Inside the server directory, let's create an API folder and a file called login.post.ts. Due to the naming conventions, the file will map any post request to the API/login path. Inside this file, we'll write an event handler where the email and the password are retrieved from the request body, some sort of login is performed, and an access token is sent back to the client as a response. And now we have a full request response cycle working properly in Nuxt. Following the same approach, I'm creating an index.vue file with a template section where I'm adding an input search field, and I'm iterating over the search results using Vue's built-in directives. In the script section, we'll use the key ref to capture the user input, and we'll fire a fetch call whenever the input changes. The search results are then assigned to the movie's reactive value, and the template will be updated accordingly. Finally, when users are clicking on one of the results, a details page will be displayed. To map this request to a page, we'll create an ID file under pages/movie. In here, we are retrieving the ID from the request URL path, fetch the details from our backend API, and then simply render this information in the template section. Then, in the server directory, I'm adding a movie.ts file which will capture all the requests sent to this path and retrieve the movie details accordingly. Note that the handler is typed, and since we are using the use fetch hook, these types can be used on the front-end side and in the templates as well, getting that much needed type safety between the front-end and the backend. Share in the comments your thoughts about Nuxt, don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons, and until next time, thank you for watching.